Primetime's been wondering where Michelle Obama's been. She snubbed both Jimmy Carter's funeral and Trump's inauguration. And last week, Barack went to a basketball game all by himself. Turns out Michelle's been busy working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them were probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3:00, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3:00 departure means you've done all that, It's like, don't start looking for your glasses, at the 3:00 departure. But he's improved over 30 years of marriage. But that was you must adjust.
Michelle says her husband doesn't really like people, doesn't know how to talk to him, and doesn't even really care.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much time to come
to check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Hate to break it to Michelle, but guys don't get deep on the course. Normally, when someone rags on their spouse, there's usually a little love. Like, Jimmy, he never listens, but he looks cute in his suit. But that wasn't cute. Did she drop this podcast to distance herself from Barack so she could run for president? Every politician starts a podcast right before they launch their next campaign. Looking at you, Gavin.
Yes, I don't know if you've realized this. Democrats are waking up. It's like they have been sleeping the whole years. They want to do podcasts. Gavin Newsom is there struggling. Michelle Obama has been taking a lot of time preparing for this. I was actually shocked, to see her podcast and the views she racked up the first day. Embarrassing. Like, seriously. I went through the comment section to see, it's like people who watch that podcast just went there, just to salvage everything. It had about 8,000 dislikes. That is to tell you something. Liberals thought this is a good idea because they believe that Trump won because of people like Joe Rogan. He went on podcasts, so the best thing is for them to sit up and start doing podcasts like that. That is exactly what they are doing now. Ask yourself why in 2025, everything now revolves around podcasts. Oh, this one want to do. Oh, this, Oprah started the other time. Now, Michelle Obama. It's like people are not really interested, in listening to what they are even talking in that show. I expected, the first episode to be high up there, but I was shocked, embarrassed to see that. It flopped.
We were physically close growing up.
Remember when we used to share a bedroom?
Of course, that was our life growing up. We shared the same room until you went to high school, right?
That's right.
Well, let's first just recall how small the apartment we lived in. It seemed like it was huge, but it was essentially 2 bedrooms, right?
No, it was 1 bedroom.
Well, that little offshoot bedroom that mom and dad stayed in, you would consider that a bedroom.
But that was the only bedroom. The room we were in was actually the living room. And the living room what we called the living room was actually the dining room.
Huh. Okay. Well, I couldn't have gotten through 8 years in the White House without my big brother. But you talked me into supporting his run. And he was smart enough to know that he needed to come to you and sell you on the idea.
Everything happened so fast because Barack went from a state senator to a U.S. senator. And next thing you know, people were saying, this guy should run for president. You were like, no. not doing.
Yes, when you take a look at this, right-wing influencers on X celebrated this week as former First Lady Michelle Obama's new podcast debuted to disappointing numbers on YouTube. Miss Obama and her brother Greg Robinson announced the launch of a video podcast Monday, promising weekly episode and dropped 2 episodes to kickstart the new venture. Podcast uploaded 2 episodes Wednesday morning that attracted 47,000 and 15,000 views, with total viewership in 24 hours reaching just 62,000. The 2 episodes touched on subjects including divorce and other aspects of their personal lives. How the episode performed on other platforms such as Spotify, Apple was not immediately clear. So you can see how people really expected her to do better.
I woke up this morning fully expecting the outrage of the day to be something that like Trump did, or the fact that Jared Golden, a Democrat, voted for the continuing resolution last night, which is also insane. And then I see this. I see that Gavin Newsom has decided to invite Steve Bannon on his podcast, and they're going to have just a wonderful conversation. Last week he had Charlie Kirk on his podcast. That I didn't get extremely outraged about, even though Kirk is one of the bad guys. Bannon is the author of this chaos we're seeing right now. Bannon is the one that says you need to flood the zone with shit. Bannon is the one that has basically authored where we are and what Donald Trump wants. And because Gavin Newsom wants to run for president and thinks he's going to be this healer, he brings on this nationalist. Many of us on the right sacrificed our careers taking these people on, and Newsom's trying to make a career with them. This is insane.
We got to talk about Gavin Newsom and his new podcast. And the most recent MAGA guest that he had on his podcast is Steve Bannon. I listened to the whole thing. It was very substantive, a really interesting conversation.
On the other hand, Gavin Newsom is receiving massive backlash on social media like never before. Gavin Newsom is thinking to run for president. I don't know if all these liberals just believe that podcast is just the way to the presidency or what exactly. Gavin Newsom appeared with Steve Bannon. What I saw with liberals, the kind of murder they put out about this, I've not seen before. They are trying. The other day, they try. It's like Gavin Newsom struggling to associate with people. On the other side, it's a problem to liberals. This is a major issue I noticed with these people. They just believe like they should be on their own space, maybe on their own wall. If you are a liberal, you should not associate with any other person. You should just stay there. And that is the beginning of their failure. That is not how it works. If you are thinking to run for president or hold a public post, you should be able to associate with people from different views, people you disagree with. You want to be a leader, then you don't want to talk to. It is crazy. It has no work for Democrat reason. You see them reassembling themselves, to sort this out. I don't know what will happen at the end of the day.
This is a poor strategy for Gavin Newsom. I actually did think that he was one of the leaders that would come out in terms of 2028. I remember watching his annual State of the Union address in California, and he criticized Republicans, and he promoted California as an antidote to the poisonous populism of the right. Now he has a Steve Bannon on the show who's saying, you're going to get to populism. There's a long road. He gives zero pushback there. He gives zero pushback, as Sarah pointed out, to really what is a slur against Senator Warren, a sitting senator. He gives a platform and normalizes, in my view, an election denier and someone who is the person who is behind Project 2025. And I believe that, if you are going to be a public servant, you better be unapologetically authentic, because voters can sniff out inauthenticity in a second. And I thought that was one of the most inauthentic things I have seen Gavin Newsom do.
Wow.
I'm terribly,
so you don't believe in the let them hang themselves theory?
No, I'm terribly deeply disappointed. I think you meet energy with energy. And what he did was he showed his pretty white teeth and his cute face and did nothing other than that.
Yes, what triggered me to actually react to what Sunny Hostin said here, it is because I've seen videos multiple times. She's coming out to compliment Gavin Newsom, how he's attractive. I don't really see this to be okay for a married person. To me, it's insane. You don't do this every time. You can compliment someone, I'm not refusing, but when you make it like a routine, it is like you are having some kind of mentality about that person.
Somebody who can get the country back in line.
Yeah.
Because it's, if you can name me a Republican who has a shot to do that, that's what I'm more interested in, because
I think it'll be DeSantis. I hope it's not DeSantis over in Florida, because I think he's a fascist. DeSantis. I think he handled COVID miserably. I think he's a fascist and a bigot. But
those are his good points.
Those are his good points. Exactly. Bing,
Don't
bing.
hold back, Sunny.
Bing, bing. And I hate this. I hate this talk about. I think people saying that he's too old. I mean, if the former, twice impeached, disgraced president thinks he's such a young spring chicken. I mean, he's going to be 78 when Joe Biden is 81, and so I don't like this ageism argument. But I will say,
true.
and
also Biden, when he was here, I asked him. He works out every day.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump does. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, take a look. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think there are plenty of Democrats that have tons of verve and energy. I mean, I like Gavin Newsom because he's really pretty to look at, and I think he does a great job in California. I like Kamala and Pete Buttigieg.
I love Pete
ticket.
Buttigieg.
I think that looks great.
You think they could win, really?
Well, I would vote for them.
Of course,
I hope this country is ready for something like that. I think the brain power alone would just obliterate Trump or DeSantis.
Thank you guys for always been sharing out my videos. God bless you abundantly. I believe you heard her. She is still repeating that over and over. Maybe she should change her mind and go for Gavin Newsom.